So we will see triggers today. I go a bit slow because triggers is really very important, and you can stop me at any time whenever you got any question. Don't hesitate, because in real time we will be using triggers mostly. Okay, every organization will have triggers. Definitely they will use triggers. Triggers are really very important and very useful in Salesforce. Whatever the functionality you implement with any of admin topics, that can be written in a trigger. If you want to send an email, you can use a trigger. If you want to make a field mandatory, you can use a trigger. If you want to update a field, you can use a trigger. So there are different ways, there are different uses of using triggers. Okay, so that is the reason triggers are very very important. So why we use triggers? If you want to implement some custom business logic or any complex business logic, before you execute some DML operation, what are the DML operations we have? Insert, update, upsert, delete and undelete. These are the DML operations we have. So whenever you are performing a DML operation, if you want to do some custom business logic like updating a field, making a field mandatory or doing something, then you can go for triggers. So trigger is used to perform some custom business logic when you are executing a DML operation. Okay, so by using triggers we can implement many business logics, and you don't need to write different triggers for each and every functionality. So all the functionality you can have in one trigger. We will see that also. Okay, no need to write different triggers for different functionalities. If you are writing something, if you are writing a if you have some functionalities to implement on your account object, you can write one trigger on account object, and that one trigger can have different functionalities. Okay, so before we go further, what are the advantages of using workflows? Why we use workflows? We basically use workflow to automate our business process. And what are the actions we can perform using workflows? Send a email notification, assign a task, update a field, and outbound messages, right? And so workflows will be executed based on a particular criteria. Like we have seen three different options, like whenever a record is created, or created and every time it is updated, or created and anytime it is edited and meet subsequent criteria. So these are the three different evaluation criteria we have in using triggers. So what we cannot do using workflows. So these are the three evaluation criteria of using workflows. Okay, so what we cannot do with triggers? We cannot insert records. Sorry, workflows. We cannot insert records using workflows, and we cannot delete. Okay, what we can't do using workflows. First thing, insert. Second, delete. We can update using workflows. You can update a record. You have field updates, right? And we can update the field on the same object using workflows. If you can revise the topic, using workflows you can update a field on the same object, or if you want to update a field of different object, that object should have master detail relationship field. That object should have master detail relationship, and that should be the master object. That should be the parent object. That means from child you can update parent. You got my point? If you want to update a field in workflows, you can update its own object field. If you are writing a if you are writing a workflow on account, okay, you can update any field on account by using a specific criteria. You can update any field on the same object. If you want to have cross object workflow field update, cross object field update means if you want to update any other object field, then that particular object should have master detail relationship, and that should be the parent one, that should be the master one. Okay, so we discussed about this when we are dealing with the workflows. And we cannot update the record from parent to child. Child to parent is possible. In cross object field update, child to parent is possible, but not parent to child. Okay, so here I am writing parent to child field update. Okay, and so you cannot update the record, I mean, which requires to update more field values. Okay, so if you want to update more fields, then you have to add more actions. Okay, so if you add more actions, then you can update more fields. If you add one action, I mean, you can update only one field. And workflows will be executed always. Whatever the criteria you have given, if that is when creating the record, every time you create a record, all the times the workflow will be executed. Okay, and you cannot perform any DML operations using workflows like delete, upsert. Update is possible, but other actions are not possible. So these are the disadvantages we have using workflows. So the main disadvantages, you can say, you cannot insert a record, you cannot delete a record, and parent to child field update is not possible. Okay, child to parent field update is possible, but those objects must be in master detail relationship. If they are in lookup relationship, it is not possible. They should be in master detail relationship. Okay, so right, if I am saying we cannot perform these actions using workflows, what does it mean? We can do those things using triggers. Whatever the things we are not able to do here, those things can be done using triggers. Okay, so what is a trigger and when the trigger will be fired? Trigger is mostly used to implement some complex business logic or custom business logic whenever a event occurs. Whenever a event occurs, what is a event? That may be insert, that may be update, that may be delete, okay, and that may be undelete. And whenever I am saying insert, delete, update, you have before insert, after insert, before update, after update, before delete, after delete. Okay, these are all the events. Suppose before inserting a account record, take this example, before inserting a account record, I want to check whether my phone number field is empty or not. If the phone number field is empty, I want to throw a error message saying that you cannot insert the record without a phone number. Okay, that can be possible using trigger, right? So what are the different events we have in triggers? Before insert, before update, before delete. And what are the after events? After insert, after update, after delete, and after undelete. Okay, so these are the different trigger events we have, right? So we have seen one example, I mean, we will see that practically. So before insert, if you want to check your phone number field is there or not, then you can write a trigger, and inside the trigger you can write the logic whatever you want, and you can throw a error message saying that you cannot insert a record without having a phone number field. Before update also, if you have some scenario, you can have that, and before updating the record. Updating the record means that is a new that is not a new record. Inserting a record means that is a new record. Updating means that is a old record and we are updating some information on the record. Okay, so before update, if you want to check something, then you can, if you want to implement some functionality before updating a record, then you can write the functionality. You can write your functionality inside the trigger, whatever you want to do before updating a record, and you can implement the functionality before updating it, and before insert and after insert. So after inserting a record, that means what happens after inserting a record, ID will be generated, and if you want to do something, what you can do, you may be doing some cross object field update. Okay, so I am trying to insert a account record, and I have some information that has to be copied to the opportunity. Okay, so after inserting, ID will be generated, and opportunity, I will create a opportunity also, and opportunity will be created, and some information I want to copy from account to opportunity. I can do that. Okay, so in the reverse also you can do. So you are creating a new opportunity. Suppose there is amount to field and the opportunity, right? And you want to calculate the total amount of all opportunities. Let's say you have a account record. You have a account and you have two opportunities already on the account, and you got a new opportunity. On the new opportunity, so on these two opportunities also there is amount to field. Okay, so each opportunity is having amount of some 300 comma 400. You are adding a new opportunity. Okay, so it is having some 500, amount is 500. So on account you have a field total amount. Okay, so before inserting this new opportunity, the total amount is 700. I will write a logic. Whenever a new opportunity created, after inserting this opportunity, this amount should be added to this field. Okay, this amount should be 500, should be added to the total amount field in the account. So that means you are doing that after inserting opportunity record. After inserting your opportunity record, you are updating a field on the account, cross object field update. Okay, right. So you know what is before delete, and you know what is after delete. After undelete means you have a record in recycle bin, and you are restoring the record to the object. Okay, so that is after undelete, and there is no before undelete. You can't do anything before undelete, because before undelete means still the record is in the recycle bin. When the record is in the recycle bin, you can't do anything. Okay, when the record is moved to your object, then you can do something. After undelete means the record is moved to the object. Okay, right. That is the reason there is no before undelete operation. So people will ask you why there is no undelete before undelete operation. So you have to explain this way, right? So these are the different events we have in triggers, and we have some context variables. Okay, so there are different context variables. We will see one by one. So I have a context variable called isInsert. Trigger dot isInsert. It returns true whenever you are trying to insert a record. IsInsert returns true whenever you are trying to insert a new record. Okay, and we have isUpdate, isDelete, isUndelete. Okay, so let me write all the events, all the context variables. These are all the context variables. So trigger dot isInsert. This isInsert, this will return true whenever you are trying to insert a new record. Okay, and trigger dot isUpdate. This returns true whenever you are updating a record. We will see how these things we use in practical. Okay, trigger dot isDelete. trigger dot is undelete, and trigger dot is before. So what is this? It will return true if whatever you are doing before inserting a record. Okay. And trigger dot is after. Okay. So these are the different context variables we have. And regularly we will use something here in trigger. I will show you that. Trigger dot new. You don't write a trigger, you don't have a trigger without having this new or a new map, old or old map. Okay, definitely you will be using either trigger dot new or trigger dot a new map, trigger dot old or trigger dot old map. Okay, right. So what is trigger dot new? It contains the current context of the records. Suppose you are trying to insert a record or a group of records. So there should be something which can hold the information of these records, because these records are not yet saved, not yet committed to database. Okay, so there should be something which can hold these records. So suppose whenever you are trying to insert multiple records from the backend, how we have done, we have created a list and we added all the records to the list, right? We have seen how to add the records to the list. Okay, and that list is added to that list is committed to the database. If you want to see that, I will show you. Yes, so you prepared a list here and you have taken a for loop to add 100 accounts. Okay, so you used add operation here. So before you insert elements, you insert the records to the database, what you are doing, you are adding all your accounts information to the list. Okay, you are using a list and adding all the account records information to the list. Now after that, after adding in one single statement, you are inserting all the 100 records. Instead of using 100 insert statements, you are using one insert statement and you are adding the list directly. Okay, so it is going to create 100 new records. With one single insert statement, you are inserting 100 records. So before you are inserting all the records, what you are doing, you are taking each and every record and adding the record to the list, right? So in the same way, in the context of trigger.new, so whenever you are trying to add a single record or whenever you are trying to add, group of records, either from the front end or either from the front end means from the UI, from Salesforce, or from any external tools. You may be using a data loader, you may be using a workbench, or whatever the tool you are using. Okay, whenever you are adding new records, those records information should be validated by something. Okay, because you are writing some business logic inside the trigger. Okay, you want to check whether there is a phone number field or not, and if there is no phone number, you want to fire a error message. So that has to be tested, that has to be validated, where whatever the records you are trying to insert, those records information has to be validated. That has to be validated means those records should be stored somewhere. Those records information must be held with a variable. So the trigger.new will do that job. Okay, before you commit your records to the database, trigger.new will hold those records information and it will validate each and every record. If you don't have something, if there is a custom business logic that is implemented in trigger and if that is not satisfied as per the trigger logic you have written, then it will throw the error message, whatever the error message you have written. Okay, so that is the reason we have trigger.new. Got it? And this trigger.new will have the current context records information. Okay, and new map, I forgot to tell one thing about the trigger.new, and this trigger.new returns a list. Okay, because sometimes you may be trying to insert a single record, then you don't need a list. But from data loader, I am trying to insert 100 records. That means this trigger should be capable of maintaining a list. So this trigger.new returns a list. Okay, and that means it contains the record in the list format. It contains the records in the list format. Okay, so when can you use trigger.new? Before inserting and before updating. Before inserting a record, you can use trigger.new, and before updating a record, you can use trigger.new. Okay, next one, trigger.new map. It is similar to trigger.new, but the difference is here the record information will be there in a list, but here in a map. So map, it contains key and value pairs, right? And what is trigger.old? It contains the previous context records. So while performing update or delete undelete operations, you use trigger.old. Okay, so if you are trying to delete some records, okay, so you want to get those records information, and you will get those records information and you will put those information in trigger.old. Okay, so either for update or delete or undelete operations, we use trigger.old. Okay, so in insert operation, trigger.old will not be available. You can't use trigger.old in case of inserting records. Trigger.old contains previous context. So there is no record that is, there is no record. So how you will get the previous context information? So trigger.old is only for the existing records. Okay, and trigger.new is to insert new records and to update existing records. You can also use this record to update. Okay, trigger.new is also, we can also use trigger.new for updating the existing records and to create or insert new records. Okay, right. And trigger.old map, it contains map of records and it contains the previous context records in the form of map collection. Okay, so these are all the different context variables and different events we have in triggers. And always remember, your trigger should handle a single record as well as bulk records. You should write your logic in such a way that it should accept bulk records. Okay, so I give you one example. So what are the limitations on DML operations? In one single transaction, you cannot have more than 150 DML operations, right? Am I right? So what I will do now is, I don't need a list also. Right, for integer I is equal 0, I less than 100, or I can say 151, because I want to check whether it is firing the DML governor limits or not. Okay, right. So here I will write insert ACC. So just think of it, in the initial stage I is 0. We initialized I value as 0. So it satisfied the condition. Okay, incrementation will be done. Okay, before that increments account ACC is equal to new account, and I have provided name and I have provided SSN number. So my account information is enough to insert the record, and I am inserting a account record here. Inside a for loop I have written insert statement. Inside a for loop I have written a insert statement. Okay, so how many times this insert statement will be, you know, compiled? How many times? How many times this insert
150
operator will
times.
be called? Yeah, it is 151 times. Okay, so as per the governor limits it is not possible. As per the governor limits it is not possible, because you can have a maximum of 150 DML operations. We'll see what error we get. Too many DML statements, 151. Okay, so there is a limit exception. The error is too many DML statements. That means you cannot use a insert operator inside a loop. Inside loops you cannot use DML operations. Okay, so it is giving you some error. In the same way, you should, whenever you are writing something, some functionality inside your trigger, you should make sure that no governor limits will hit. Okay, so once you got these errors you will be in trouble. You should make sure that everything is going smooth inside trigger. Okay, so it should handle the bulk records also. Here I am trying to insert bulk records and I am failed to insert, because I have written insert statement inside for loop, and this for loop is repeating for 150 times, and because of that I am unable to insert. And I do the same thing using list. What I do is list account lst is equal to new list. Now you won't get this error, account. So what I will do here is lst dot add. I am adding the account to the list. Okay, and outside the for loop, I am inserting the list. Now we will see how many DML operations are performed. So here DML operations are 151, right? Okay, I want to see how many DML operations we are going to get here for inserting these 151 records. Any errors here? I guess no. No errors. Success. So we will see how many DML operations we have used. If you can scroll down, then you can see how many DML statements we used. We used only one. Out of 150 we used only one. Okay, so that means you should always follow the best practices. One of the best practice is do not use DML operations inside loops. Do not use DML operations inside loops. Okay, so you should make sure that your trigger will work for a single record and as well as for bulk records. Okay, that is why I explained this example. All right, now go back to triggers. Okay, so you should always make sure that your trigger will not fail for the bulk records. So for bulkifying records you are using trigger.new. Trigger.new will contain list of records. Okay, by default trigger.new is a list. Right, now we will see a basic trigger. Let me write a basic trigger on the account object, or else first we will see the syntax for the trigger. Okay, so if you want to see the syntax, just go here and file a big trigger. Trigger name on your object name and the events. That is your trigger syntax. Account trigger object account submit. Okay, so this is the syntax for your trigger. Trigger, your trigger name, on, your object. These are the events. Okay, right. So what we will do, we have a phone number field, right? We have a phone number field on the account. So I want to make a phone number field, the phone number field mandatory. Okay, I want to make the phone number field mandatory before I insert. Here I am using only before inserting. Okay, so how I can do that? For account ACC trigger.new. Okay, for account ACC trigger.new, I want to check the condition. If ACC dot phone is a standard field, right, is equal to comparator. If you are not giving any value on phone, by default there will be null, is equal to null. Okay, I want to add a error message. ACC dot add error. There is a standard method add error, and you can write the error message inside this method. Please enter the phone number. Please enter the phone number. Okay, right. That's it. So you have written a validation for phone number field. So it is showing some errors. We will see what are those. There are no errors. Okay, right. Let me save this. Before that, let me close all these. It is not saved. See here, you can see a star. So it is saving now. That is saved. Okay, now I will try to insert a account record without giving a phone number. SSN is mandatory, right? We have a validation for SSN number. Please enter the phone number. Okay, so I will change the error message here and save it. It is not saved. It is saved now. Again, try to save the record. Hello user, please enter the phone number. Okay, right. So you have written a validation using a trigger. Now this trigger will work for existing records. I mean, if you want to update records, will it work? Take a existing record. I will edit. There is no phone number here. I will edit this record and I will try to save it. I am able to save the record. Trigger is not firing here because that is a existing record. Okay, so you have written trigger.new here and the event is before inserting only. It is not before update. See here, this is a existing record, or else go here and take any other account. These are all the accounts that we have created yesterday. Open a different account. This is the existing record, not the new record. Okay, I'm not giving any phone and I'm trying to save. You are able to save it. So the reason is you have not written any logic before update a record. So if you want to add that also, you can add the event before update. This is a event. Okay, so you can write all events here. Whatever events you want, you can write. This is before update. Now I will save this. This is saving here. That is saved. And this is the existing record. Now you will get the error message. Okay, hello user, please enter the phone number and remove this before update and check it again. Now you will be able to save it. Okay, so based on the context variable you are writing here, the operation will be performed. Okay, you have written a event here only for before inserting. Okay, that means this logic will be performed only before inserting a record. Got it? Right. So I will write 2 here. Now we will see what is the use of context variables. Okay, so I have written 2 statements here, before insert, before update. Right, that means without phone number you can't save. Without phone number you can't save. Okay, right. So I have a requirement where okay, right, let me save this. That is saved. Now I have written a validation to make, I mean, without giving a rating the user cannot insert a record or he cannot update a record. Take existing record, give some information in phone and rating. Where is that? Yeah, here it is. I'm not giving any value in rating. Save. Rating is mandatory. Okay, so rating is mandatory and I give rating. I don't give phone number. What I get? Please enter the phone number. Okay, now my requirement is this particular logic has to be fired only for before inserting and this particular logic only for before updating. Got it? The first one, this one I want only before updating and this one only, sorry, the first one is only for before inserting and the second one before updating. I want to separate the logics. I want to have some validations. I want to do some complex business logic before inserting records and I want to do something else before updating. So I want to separate the context. Okay, if you are writing, if you are defining the variables events here, so whatever you write inside, this logic will be performed before insert and before update. I don't want that. What I want is first thing has to be before inserting and the last thing has to be before updating. In that case, I can write this context variable. If trigger dot is before, that means it is checking whether the context is before or not. Okay, and trigger dot is insert. Okay, so if you are writing this, and this has to be in brackets, Okay. Now this loop is from here to here. So we have written is before and is insert. That means this is equal to before insert. And here for this what I will write is, I will take one more if trigger dot is before and trigger dot is update. Okay. Right. So see here, this for loop is here and this for loop is from here to here. Okay. So before insert, before updating, this means before updating. So before updating, the compiler will check this one only. Okay. Before updating, rating is mandatory, and before inserting, phone number is mandatory. We will check this one. Okay. Got it? Any question? Before inserting, it will check only for the phone number. Now we will try to insert a new account. SSN is mandatory. There is a validation for that. I'm not giving any phone. Hello user, please enter the phone number. Now we will enter some phone number. Okay, we entered some phone number and I'm not giving any rating here. And this one is a new record before inserting. Save it. You saved. It is saved without giving rating. Now it is existing record. Right? Now it is existing record. Okay. So for existing record, what is the logic we have written? Before updating, it will check the rating only. It will not check phone. Now if you don't give any phone, it won't give you any error regarding phone. Okay. So what is mandatory before updating? Rating is mandatory. If you give rating, you are able to save. Got my point? Got my point? Any question here?
Srinu, what do we need to do if we want to get that error message at the field itself?
Yeah, very good question. Just add the field acc dot phone dot add error, acc dot rating dot add error. Edit. Before updating, which one is mandatory? Rating is mandatory. Before updating, rating is mandatory. If that is a new record, phone number is mandatory. I'm not giving any phone. Hello user, please enter the phone number. Got it? So this is the use of trigger. Okay. So you can use it at a different context variables. So you can implement as much logic as you can. Before insert, I want this functionality. Okay. You can have the context variables and you can define. Okay. And if you want both these before inserting only, I want both these logics to be performed before inserting only. Okay. Okay. So both these logics will be performed only before insert. Okay, even though you have written before update here, this logic will not work before update because you separated this logic with this context variables. You have written a context variables, okay, only for this context variable before insert and is before and is insert. Only at this instance this logic will work. If you want to check, you can check. Let me save it. Have you got my point here? I want to have these two functionalities before inserting only. Okay, but I have before update here, but before update this functionality will not be performed because I have written a context variable here. This context variable, I mean because of this will be performed only before inserting. I will show you. This is a new record, right? Or else you can cancel and select new. Okay, rating is mandatory, phone number is mandatory. You got two before inserting. Now let me check with existing records. It is not having any values and let me update it, or else I give something, I update something else. Save. You are able to save it because you have context variable here. Even though you have the event here, because of this context variable, it will check the context variable. This logic will be performed only before insert. I want this functionality to be performed before update also. Then what I have to write, you can just add one more context variables and trigger dot is update. If you add it, then this will be performed for this is update and this is before. So whatever I have written, is it correct? And means two conditions has to be satisfied. But here, is it possible to satisfy these three conditions? Before, one is insert, one is update. Okay, it is not possible, right? I can use the OR operator here. Okay, and I can use the brackets. Got it? Okay, no errors. Now it will check, is it before is before means if it is before or not, and is it is insert or is update, any one of these two. Okay, so if that is before insert, is before and is insert. If that is before update, is before and is update. Okay, any question? Right, now this is the existing record and the trigger has to be fired here as well. It is fired. Got it? So you can play with triggers. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Yeah, so
No question.
okay, so we continue the same topic tomorrow. We will see some more examples. Okay, you just practice it and try to work on with different scenarios, not just what I have discussed. Just try to think of more. Okay, try to think of beyond what we discussed today. Okay, we'll see some more examples tomorrow, right? Okay, thank you, see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Kenu.
Yeah, thanks Andy, bye.